Okay, and welcome back. Alright, so let's get on with the general arrangement here, and we'll bring in the remaining parts. So up here in the assembly ribbon bar, we can insert additional parts as we need. So up here, I'm going to click on Insert Components, and this is the same window we get as when we first create an assembly document. So here, if you didn't missed a part or need to add more parts, we just need to insert components and away we go. So we've already inserted parts, sub-assemblies 1 and 2. So we got the boiler, so we've got the boiler, the cab, the coal box, and the cow grates there. So let's insert those remaining parts, and there's only one of each of them. So first up is the boiler, and I'm just going to rotate about the y-axis so that it is in the correct orientation there. So I'm just going to place that there. Look at that. The cab comes in the correct orientation, don't need to rotate it. Coal box comes in, and the cow grate comes in just as the same again. Alright, so let's get mating. Rightio, let's go for the main boiler. So I'm just going to select the outside of the boiler, and I want the inside of the support bracket there. I'm going to lock rotation. No, let's not lock rotation. So I want this in a specific position. So I'm going to make sure I mate one of the planes of the boiler with the right plane of the assembly. So I'm going to click that there. I want to mate the end of the boiler flush with the end of the chassis right there, so that's now there. I could have mated it with the deck as well, either or, but there I'm sticking with that for this scenario. So that's got that mated there. By expanding my design tree, now I want to find this part. So there's the boiler, number 3 subassembly, and let's pick a plane. Front plane, look at that, front plane, and it's going to be the right plane of the main assembly. So now it's rotated. I've got my my holes definitely located at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock there. I'm going to accept that mate there. I can minimize my boiler subassembly, and let's go for the cab. So I'm going to go for the top deck there, and I'm just going to select the bottom of the cabin there, and that's located that there. I'm going to locate the front of the cabin with the same position I did with the boiler, this front part of the chassis, and that locks that in. I'm going to accept that. So we've got another coincidence relationship. Again, as you can see, the last mate is left and right, so I'm just going to get some symmetry happening again. So we find the cab subassembly, so I hover over it, find the middle plane, which happens to be the right plane, and let's go for the right plane of the assembly. Make that, and accept that. So that's now got the cab. So you can start to see this coming together now. I'm going to minimize the cab assembly. Let's go for the coal box. So I can go straight up. Let's say the right plane of the coal box, right plane of the assembly, main assembly, top deck. I'm going to go for, let's go for the bottom face at the back there, and that's mated that to the deck. And the back of the coal box, this face, and the back of the deck is an offset, so I'm going to put a distance. Now as I can see here, it's offsetting it back towards the cabin. Now it's actually a distance the other way, so I'm going to flip the distance. So I'm going to flip down here, and that should be 5 mil. So it's 5 mil overhanging the back of the back deck there. I'm going to accept that mate there. And that's got that assembled. Last is the cow grate. So I'm going to go for the top face of the cow grate, mates with the top face of that front boiler support in the chassis. So I'm going to accept that. You've got the front of the cow grate. I'm going to pick the left hand side there, whereas the right hand side, depending on which way you look at it, with that on the chassis. Accept that, and again I'm going to go for the symmetry, find the right the middle plane, so it's the right plane in the cow grate assembly, sub-assembly, and the right plane of the main assembly. I'm going to minimize that, and everything looks pretty good as I see at the moment, so I'm going to accept that. So if I minimize each of the sub-assemblies in the design tree so it doesn't expand all the way down to China, I can see that my whole assembly is now fully defined. If for some reason it wasn't fully defined, I just need to find what degree of freedom I have with the particular sub-assembly. But as it is at this moment, it is fully defined. Alright, I'm going to click the save, because up the top here, if you haven't noticed, this little asterisk here, the asterisk is an indicator. It's a nice little indicator to tell you that you've done work, changes, and if you don't save it and it crashes, you're going to lose it. So let's save our work. That main assembly has now been created. Rightio. So if I go Control 1, I've got a front view of the front of the engine. If I go Control 3, which is the left view, which is the right side of the engine, I go Control 4, which is the other side, which is now the left side of the engine, which is the right view. And I got Control 5, which is the top of this assembly. There. So as you can see, I've now got my engine fully constrained, fully mated, and it's ready now to start creating an engineering drawing.